are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome back to our second episode of People Power, the show where we talk about people and really truly try to dig into what it is that we can use this valuable resource of people energy to make a difference in our communities. My name is Dwayne Norris, joined by my co-host and special friend, Mr. Alejandro Alvarez. And today we have a special guest with us as well, who's going to talk about why he decided to get in the race for mayor. We know that there's so many ways to get good things done in our communities, from the grassroots to business leadership, social entrepreneurship, and government. And they all need to be working together, but we all need to be working with a vision and a goal. And this individual has done it from the private sector and is now putting his hat into the public sector. And I think we're very intrigued to understand his vision for New York City, a city that is very dynamic and has a lot of different issues that it needs to tackle. And we're excited to have him with us. So Alejandro, any thoughts before we bring out our guests?
Well, hello, everyone. Super happy to be back. Just excited to learn more about our guest, his initiatives, and his vision for New York City, especially that now in this time of uncertainty, dealing with COVID, now opening up back our big, beautiful city. And at these moments, we are in need of true leadership and vision of how we can come into a new era of New York City and post COVID. So I'm super excited to learn more and ready to go.
All right, well, awesome. So am I. So I want everybody to welcome our guest. This is Chris Krietchman. Chris is a 40-year-old third-generation New Yorker. He has a health and wellness background. He started an entrepreneur, really on the entrepreneurial track, and created a business. Now he's seen the opportunity in public service to really try to make an impact. He's known for his discipline, his endurance, relentless kindness, integrity, and empathy. In 2003, he founded an organization called Wellville, and that was a movement that he created in order to improve human interactions. He's thrown over 200 events to build diverse, multicultural teams and coalitions. He's empowered many different communities and built these relationships to overcome different challenges. And even he as himself has overcome different health issues to really make it to where he is today. And so we're really excited to chat with him. He's running independently for New York City mayor. And he has a significant platform to address human rights. I think that's really at the core from our conversations. He sees that as really the core, but basic human rights, public health and wellness, community and culture, and ethics. And he considers himself an unconventional candidate and brings over 30 years of entrepreneurial experience to this space. And so, Chris, welcome. Pleasure to have you. How are you doing today, boss?
I'm doing very good, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here with you guys and have a conversation, right?
Yeah, yep. That is how we move things forward. It takes action to get things done. But it first takes conversation. We got to understand where people are coming from, understand their vision, understand their ideas, understand how they want to get things done, and then we move. And so, yes, we were able to have a nice chat with you, recently about your vision. But before we even get into your whole vision for New York City and your candidacy, I wanted to get a better sense of you as the man, you as Chris. You mentioned this entrepreneurial background. You grew up in New York. Tell us a little bit about the upbringing and that family life that got you all this hunger and passion that you have. Where did that come from?
Well, that comes from me being a third generation New Yorker. let's see. I was born in Brooklyn and raised in Staten Island. My father's of Russian Jewish descent. My mother is of Catholic Italian descent, which makes me, most New Yorkers will know this, a pizza bagel. And I grew up on Staten Island, and I attended Catholic school, and I learned immediately how the world really is, and anti-Semitism and racism and stuff like that. And I always remembered learning that we should be treating each other by the golden rule, the way we want to be treated. And I immediately saw that in my youth, how that just wasn't adhered to, and it really affected me. Growing up in Staten Island and having SWAT stickers put on our house on Halloween, and people saying it's not that big of a deal and whatnot, but it really is, and it really impacts our mental, physical, and spiritual health, no matter how we want to toss them aside or not act like they're big problems. And that's actually what I look back into my youth growing up. I'm not saying that all the people I encountered in my life were that way, but I learned about them, and I realized that we've got to change the way things are in the beginning in order to get to a better outcome. And if we don't focus on the causes, how do we expect the effects to be different? There's this constant knee-jerk reaction of solving problems and fixing symptoms and treating symptoms as opposed to the root causes. And I think that that's, basic human rights and needs, public health and wellness, community and culture, and ethics. I mean, New York City's got 300 different neighborhoods. There's like so many different languages, so many hundreds of languages being spoken in New York City, and there's over 300 neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a resource in that. And as I looked around the city and grew up and went to nightlife and experienced New York City's nightlife and understanding different social structures, I realized that there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be fixed. And I tried to do that through my businesses and worked on that significantly hard. But again, if you want to affect real change, you've got to get yourself involved in the system. And the system we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about I don't want to get ahead of it, but we've definitely got plenty to talk about that.
We're going to talk about it. I mean, so there's a lot there that you said. The things that you experience as a child don't leave you. I could definitely attest to that. I grew up in a community that didn't have many Black families. When I moved out of New York, I moved to a place in New Mexico, and people were calling me the N-word, and I was fighting all the time. And those things where that there's a disconnect between what you know about yourself and how people perceive you or relate to you, and that disconnect is real. It takes a while for you to really understand, like, why would people hate me without knowing me, right? All those things that you kind of experience, and wanting to see people do better, knowing that we have to address kind of these root issues of ignorance and miseducation and division that stem, that really are the root of so many of the problems that we're facing. And so definitely love that you touched on that. Interesting that you said this last part, right? So, we do have to be involved in the system in order for it to change, right? I grew up not wanting to engage in politics at all. I was one of those people who was like, oh, no, politics, not for me. Can't even, everybody's slimy, greasy. And I hate that I grew up that way, but, that was the easy way to kind of understand is like, that's not for me. That's not something that, is for people like me. And so, now, as you're saying, as somebody who came from an entrepreneurial background, who came from business, and probably thought within your business that you were making a lot of change, that you were doing a lot of good work. Why change and why pivot? If you're doing a lot of good work here, why did you feel like it was necessary to kind of open up this new lane?
Well, I'll answer that by saying I know culturally I'm doing good work in the private area, but am I being effective? Is it actually having an impact when you know that the system's designed against change, for one thing? And then being able to understand that Well, the success of the company is also directly attached to what's going on. And again, we're about improving human interactions and making a healthier, kinder world, and understanding that there are limitations, there's biases, there's limitations, there's just things and systems that are designed that get in the way to get good things out there. And this is where I stopped and thought to myself when I started building Wellville. 8-9 years ago at this point, like the goal wasn't about an events company. The goal is not about a magazine or an apparel brand. The goal is about shifting culture and making a real difference. And we always knew as we built the company that there was going to be a time and place where I have to get involved in politics or the company itself at some point in order to change government policy. See, the company itself operates on affecting society and culture. But again, culture beats strategy for one thing. So that's a great move for us as a company. But if we don't affect policy and we don't affect that like structure, how are we going to really be effective as a cultural societal movement? Like when you think about the institution of education and the access to it, like why aren't they teaching financial literacy? Why aren't they teaching civic literacy? Why doesn't everyone in the city and the country have access to free, good healthcare? Why are there homeless people? These are all things that are part of improving human interactions in the urban living experience. And it's always been, I knew I'd have to get here and do this someday. I guess I didn't realize how soon it was coming. That's what I really want to say.
And to that point, we do share this entrepreneur spirit, right? And my question is, as people are going to come out and vote and look at, what you're bringing to the table, what lessons, right? What lessons did you learn in the private sector that you're going to be bringing into your new line of work, right? I think it's important for even just for me as an entrepreneur to better understand how these two things correlate, the two lives the first life that you live and the next life that you're looking to embark on, and how those two things are going to, I guess, the first life support the next, right?
So here's simply straightforward how I can say that. Number one is any plan that I've ever created as an entrepreneur has never gone according to the darn plan. Life always shows up. You've got to work with people. People have different motivations. Sometimes it's like corralling cats. Sometimes you do all the work that you can do, and then you rely on someone else to do their part, and they don't do it. So understanding that nothing goes according to plan, that there are so many different relationships involved with getting things and managing expectations is part of what I bring to this from the private sector and from my own journey of dealing with health and my own illnesses and problems in that. I've also been able to manage expectations and understand that through the combination of my background with my health conditions and with my entrepreneurial endeavors, I've learned that nothing gets done without people. People are the system. People are the people who operate within the government and the policies and the laws. People say that we're a country of laws. We're a country of people that make laws and execute on laws or enforce laws. We're people. Like I want to remind that we're all human beings. And New York City is, again, broken when it comes to the uniting of the 5 boroughs and the 300 different neighborhoods of New York. We need to come together because through an entrepreneurial endeavor, there's innovative ways of unconventionally looking at things to solve problems. And I personally believe that when I look and I listen to the way things are done in New York City and how people are attached to the way things are done and the way things should be done according to old narratives, this is where I like to say something. We're in the second fifth of the 21st century. We have to apply 21st century understanding and solution, problem solving, two things, and not keep applying 19th and 20th century solutions and problem solving approaches. Like, do we know that there's an educational problem in this city? Yes. Do we know that there's a housing problem in this city? Yes. Sure. Why do we keep trying to do the same thing over and over and keep funding the same departments to do the same thing and get the same outcome and expect something different. I mean, it's literally the definition of insanity at this point. But who ties it all up? It's, the party politics. The duopoly is one of my big issues, because that's a big part of where we see the resistance of change.
Mm-hmm. On a national level, I got a question on the duopoly. I won't keep that one as local because you're going to have to work with some of these people. So I'll just say on a national level, how do you feel like duopoly has stifled progress and almost our creativity as a two-party system in the way that we are, and these two parties fight for dominance, and it's very difficult for an independent like yourself to get a voice, whether local or nationally. But I'll just speak on the national politics level. How do you feel like this duopoly is really kind of crushing creativity and new voices for emerging in with new ideas and opportunity?
Well, it actually is a massive impact on the local level. We don't realize it in our day to day, but when people go outside, they walk on the street, or they're at home and they're watching TV and they're picking which on the federal level that they care about on that national level. It trickles down to assuming that, oh, well, I don't have to get involved at the local level because I solved it at the federal level. And it's like, no, like the federal doesn't have that much of an impact in your day-to-day life. It's just for some reason marketed and advertised that way on a national level, which brings this nationalism, which is, there's a good thing to nationalism, but there's also a problem to nationalism, which I've seen that we clearly have a detachment to the local level of government and politics. And it negatively impacts us because we think that there's only two teams to pick from because of how much attention, funding, and focus goes on that federal election. I mean, there was a third candidate in the presidential election, Joe Jurgensen. We forget that there was a third, it's massively overlooked that there was a libertarian.
It's just that it's not that it was, I mean, I guess it's somewhat overlooked, but just also the way that the duopoly has sucked up all the energy and power. It's like if you vote third party, it's like you're actively voting. It's like you're not allowed to voice that free vote because then they're saying
we're always in a dire position.
I am personally a fan of ranked choice voting. Is that something that you support?
I massively support it. It gives power to the unknown voices and the unequipped with resources significantly. And I think that when I understand America as the oldest democracy, then I find out that other countries evolved on our democracy and have been using ranked choice voting, and we're coming to the game late.
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed. I am. I'm like, well, why haven't we been doing this? This makes perfect sense, and I know why. It's because when you look at the two-party system we have, it gives people an opportunity to stop thinking about, oh, my guy do or die, or my person do or die. Now it's like, oh, wait, I have to think about a backup plan? Who's, just in case my candidate doesn't make it, who's the next guy or the next gal or the next person that I'm interested in, which actually creates this calmingness of the poll, left or right. It actually gets people to be a little bit more who they are and more human in that perspective. And it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. I could get behind someone else and some of their stuff instead of this one and done type of thing. So I really like ranked choice voting. It's going to help really re-educate the way we approach this in the country.
Where are we in New York? I understood that we were close to ranked choice voting as a legislation. Is that, do you know where we are with that?
So as far that I know, the runoff elections that happened in Queens were ranked choice, but they're because of the weather and the pandemic that we're still, the multiple pandemics that we're still under. There wasn't a large turnout, but the primaries are 100% going to be ranked choice voting, and they are educating New Yorkers on that. And I do believe that they're putting it forward, which is good, and it should be done across all aspects of voting. It is good for us as a society, for evolution and change. I mean, that's the one constant fact that we have in this world, is that change is inevitable. So at least we can, ease our way into it.
Chris, I'm curious we keep speaking a lot about, getting into office and so forth. I'm not, hearing you speak, there's certain obstacles, obviously, as an independent getting into office, but what is your even perception right now that's going to be the hardest obstacle once you get into office that you're going to be facing? What are those, as an entrepreneur, right? We have to have some foresight, right? As yes. Business owners, we have to, in essence, have a little crystal ball in front of us and kind of foresee what pain points and obstacles we're going to have to overcome in order to find success in our endeavors. So my question to you is, we've spoken a lot about how you're going to get there and the hardships or the barriers potentially of becoming mayor, but what do you think is going to be the hardships and the heavy lifts once you become mayor and once you're there?
Well, right off the bat, I could tell you that it's going to be the parties and the different people who are in the incumbent positions who are red or blue. That's definitely going to be one problem. Then working with the relationships that exist in different departments that are there for different reasons, and understanding the people's relationships. Because again, I think that a lot of people don't really understand that. We like to point the finger at the system, but we don't realize, again, it's people, and people have relationships, and those relationships are mixed bags. And to really be able to create this sense of uniting New York City to get to solve our problems is a huge undertaking in a city that is known for not working ethically in many different aspects. So the challenge is going to be to get transparency, accountability, to get communication working really well amongst the people who make the decisions, who enforce the rules, who handle the money, building relationships with councilmen and borough presidents and even Albany and federally. Like, it's all a relationships game, which is, again, I know I come in hot as like I'm anti-party, but it's done that way to wake up the voter. It's not because I'm anti-party completely. It's just we need to have more power over policy for the people as opposed to party politics. And I think that there's a delicate touch to this, but I know that relationships are going to be, and the incumbency is going to be the biggest issues. But I don't see that I am an malleable person who can't work with people. But again, we've got to come to real tangible solutions, because New Yorkers don't want lip service anymore about just identifying with problems. Whether it's me or anyone else who wins this race, New York City people want real solutions, and they want to see things working. I think that's the biggest complaint that New Yorkers have is like, yeah, but it doesn't work.
We got a New Yorker asking a question here that I will get to. But before I get to the question here on health, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned a lot about people, right? These relationships and the current infrastructure that's already built in, right? These systems of people, right, in their different positions. What is your leadership style like, right? You seem like you're a combination of chill and potentially abrasive when you want to be, or direct. How do teams adapt to your leadership style, and how do you get people to do the things that need to get done or that you envision them getting done? I think a lot about being a leader and a lot about being a business owner or now an elected official is about getting people to buy into your vision and moving people to action. You have to influence people in a very positive way, right? We know that you can rule through love and you can rule through fear. How do you get people to kind of believe that Chris is going to take us to a better place? And what is your overall kind of leadership style like in now hopefully managing these new relationships?
Well, I like that you've given me the dual or the binary option of rule through love or through fear, but I'd like to present another option.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that one.
It's okay, but you set me up. So the reality is what if we didn't rule and we worked together through empathy and through kindness and through communication? and listen to our communities and pay attention to what's going on and create a collaborative conversation. The management style that I've noticed is a top-down pyramid system where, you know, someone checks off and then it goes down, right? Well, the way I operate is I believe that management should be in support of the next level of management, and that level of management should be in support is who has been traditionally underneath them. But really, when you're management or executive, whatever position, your job is to be in support of those people who are doing the work for your department or your team or for you specifically. I believe that there is a strong sense, and I talk about this often amongst my teams that I have had over the years, and I think there's something sacred that I hold when someone says that they work for that company or they work for that person. Or, for example, I work for you, right? Like, what does that mean? That means that you're doing something that someone else either can't do, won't do, doesn't know how to do, or just doesn't have the ability. So there's an exchange of money for someone to do something, or an exchange of some sort of goods and services in order to get someone to do something that needs to be done in order to achieve a goal. And I think that management is about being able to inspire people to, or rather leadership is about being able to inspire and motivate people to achieve a common goal. And it's managers who are experts. It's their job to come in to solve the problems. But again, they have to be in support of the people that they're working with and helping or executing for them to support that. And I've never seen a certain circumstance that doesn't work out well, unless if people are rejecting the ideology that their voice has a say and that they can actually have an impact. And changing that whole management structure and style is what's tough when people come into the entrepreneurial space, because when you think about the corporate world and you think about the way institutions already work in a hierarchical standpoint, they don't work in that kind of flat sense. So being able to introduce that new management style would be key, because it's not, I don't have all the answers. I don't ever claim to even say that I have all the answers. I just know the problems. And my goal is to bring in the experts to solve those problems and work in a collaborative way with the different communities. And honestly, in New York City, there's a lot of talent here that there are in these different communities that can actually solve their own problems. They just need the access to resources, and that could be in many different ways, or even just the ability to execute on that, having the sign off. And there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape that gets in the way of us getting things done. So being able to understand and communicate better, that's really what I see is going to be a little bit of a learning curve for the way departments work here in New York City and in any government institution and most corporate organizations as well.
And Chris, this is also aligned with the question that was presented. What inspired you? I'm curious to know what inspired you to two fronts. Start that health business, right? Because it was asked what was the name and what was the health business about, you know. And then how is that know-how, that inspiration going to impact your actions as, you know, once you become mayor? Is healthcare going to be a priority for you? Is that going to be something that you're going to get behind of? But those are really the two questions. Like, what inspired you? What got you started in that healthcare space? And is that going to then impact as well your decision making once you get into power in the healthcare space?
So what inspired me to build Wellville was I was coming off of having a daily delivery meal program business that I created. And I stopped and I thought to myself, and working with a great group of business strategists and consultants, shout out to Mayoral Life. They're amazing gentlemen. They helped me realize that I'm not trying to feed people. I'm trying to make the world a healthier place and give people access to things. And I realized, wow, that has to be done in a different way. And that's how I built the company. And it was about society impacting our mental, physical, and spiritual health. And I realized that there are so many things that need to be corrected. and re-educated or even educated in the first place. So my passion of building the company was about making a healthier, kind, or rather a healthy, kind, empathetic world where everyone has access to succeed, and how that impacts me running and how that will do this and where my priorities are is all 10 points of what I care about, whether it's basic human rights and needs, whether it's public health and wellness, whether it's community and culture, whether it's ethics, or any of the other points, innovation, entrepreneurship, job creation, infrastructure, city government agencies, all the sort of things, and the economy, finance, storefronts, you name it, all of them are priorities. The question is how do you address them? And they're all interwoven and interconnected. So public health, access to healthcare, that is a priority. Homelessness, it is a priority. I don't believe that one of them should take precedent over another, because being mayor of New York City is one of the hardest jobs to do in the world. The world is watching who the next administrator is going to do, and they're going to set the tone. They're going to set the strategy and the game plan moving forward. But the key is, are we going to be leading through like dictating people what to do, or we're going to be working communally and collaboratively in order to get things done together? Because I think that New Yorkers would buy in and vote and be part of the system more if they knew that they had some transparency. They knew where their taxpayers' dollars were going and like where it's all going, and also if they can actually take part in it and be part of solutions, instead of, oh, well, you can't do that because you're not part of this agency, or, oh, that can't be done because of this. It's like, guys, it's 2021.
I got a question.
We can do this.
Yeah. I got a question for you, if you don't mind. You are the only probably elected official that I know in my lifetime to run on a platform of ethics. I saw it on your website. I hear you speak about it again today, and in our last conversation. I love it. Why is ethics to you at the core? And then also, how do you think that that's going to aid in your ability to govern? Because I feel like it adds to transparency. I feel like it adds to accountability when you have ethics here. And I'd be curious to know your thought process on having that as one of your core issues. I don't think anybody told you to do that. You haven't, from what I understand, you don't even have a full campaign team, right? Everything that's right now is just your vision. So nobody's coaching you to say, hey, this is a platform that you should have. It's really to say, this is what you believe at your core. And then that hopefully will then lead itself into these other areas where you have to make tough decisions, but with an ethical lens. But I'd be curious to know, what do you define by ethics, and how are you using that to guide what hopefully will be a successful campaign and hopefully a successful term?
Well, let me answer that array of questions, because there's a lot in that, and I'm going to answer it all the best I can, because I hear you loud and clear. Yeah. So number one, the platform is United Neighborhoods of New York City, and it's built on the ideology of emotional reform and economic innovation, right? Like, that's how we're going to do this, or what we're going to do. Now, the question is, how are we going to do this, and where do we begin, and why is ethics coming up? Well, when I look at the opportunity of, let's say I could create a new city, right, from scratch. What would be the 4 pillars, or the base, the foundation? What would be the bedrock? Ironically, New York City's on bedrock. So what would be in the bedrock of that ideal city? Well, we would definitely have basic human rights and basic human needs. That has to be covered. No one should be homeless. No one should be without food. No one should be without a voice. Everyone should have access to what the Constitution deems in the Bill of Rights and all the amendments for that sake. So that's one very strong thing that I will not budge on in any way. Then public health and wellness, which supports basic human needs and rights. If you have access to it, then you have to actually enforce that. That's part of it, right? So you need to actually have that system in place. And it's not just about the public health and wellness of the people, but it's also of the physical city itself. You have to think of it as an entity itself, the infrastructure, the systems, the different departments, etc. Like, there's a healthiness to it. And this noise pollution, as we hear sirens, even on this, that is noise pollution that affects our mental, physical, and spiritual health. And then we get into culture and community. And what comes out of culture and community is really interesting. What comes out of it is society. Society determines through its foundation what is going to be its ethics, and how is it going to translate if it's accountability. Because you asked, what is ethics? Ethics is operating under a societal rule of a code that comes out of it, and it's usually impacted through religion, spirituality, and different culture and ethnicities and stuff like that. And there's a magic of New York City. It's mixed of everybody.
Yeah.
It's the one spot where everyone in the world comes to and has made home. So with that being said, what is our code of ethics? What is the New York culture? What is the definition of the New York community? A lot of people have their own version of it, but I think that maybe we should codify it a little bit. And then we should also have an ethics code of how we operate and conduct business and do things, because it's about the corruption and the inaccountability and the lack of transparency in the communication. If someone is operating with ethics, there's a level of accountability and integrity. And what is integrity? Integrity means something is whole and complete. So when I look at New York City and I look at this and I go, well, is it of integrity? Is that structure sound and solid? Why is it broken? Why is it fractured? Why does it not work? Why is it that any other candidate says they're going to come in and fix a symptom and not address the cause, and they're going to fix it and they're going to build something on top of a foundation that's broken? If you don't address the foundation, you're never going to build something that lasts. That's just what I've learned from the private sector. It's what I've learned from my own health. It's what I've learned from any relationship I've ever tried to build. If you don't start strong at the core with communication and listening. And what is communication? Communication is not talking at people. It's observation and listening. We have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. One thing I've learned, you should be speaking twice as less as you look and hear. So that's where ethics is for me, and I hope I touched all of your question. But I believe I did. If I missed anything, please let me know.
You did a really good job, because it was a 2-part question and a little bit difficult, but I think you gave people a lens. I said I listen to politicians, not often, but enough, and I don't often hear ethics at their core, right? I don't hear that being a focal point of a concept. I don't, sometimes you'll hear them say transparency, but true accountability and transparency and ethics is not usually a platform. So I give you props and kudos for having that as part of your core message and part of how you want to move forward. Alejandro, you got a question?
Yeah. So as I was hearing you speak, something triggered in my mind, and it was, I keep hearing you speak about ethics and integrity. And for some reason, it's like my inner superhero got woken up, right? Like I started thinking about like that when we're little kids and, we glorify and put our superheroes and that's just embody them, right? And as I was hearing you speak, I was kind of like thinking to myself, like, what superhero would Chris be, right? Like what superhero, and it's more of the qualities of the superhero. Yeah, right. Like, but more of the qualities, right? Like to me, it was just like I started thinking of all these things, and in all honesty, Dwayne is one of my superheroes, right? Like he's a person that I look to embody as a person, and for the work that he does, and it doesn't have to be somebody necessarily like Superman or something like that. But I guess my core questions are both like, what were your real life heroes, and which is your superhero? And the last question is, what's your superpower? I guess as I was hearing you speak through all this.
Well, I got to be honest. I'm gonna answer this in not sequential orders. I think that my favorite superheroes are all of them, and it's because there's human aspects to it. And I'm gonna just do a little sidebar statement here. The DC Comics, Batman, right? Gotham City. What's New York also, referred to as Gotham. Right? So there's an interesting parallel when you look at Gotham City in the comics, and even in Christopher Nolan's version of Batman Begins, right? Where how corrupt the city was I still don't think that we really understand the parallel to New York City. I just want to leave that there.
No, for sure.
Right? Now, going back to the question.
We're picking up what you're putting down there, brother.
Cool. So like there's this thing that we all go through, and I don't think that any of us truly who are into superheroes really identify with one forever. I think that different times call for different superheroes, which is why there's those team ups, right? And thanks to Jon Favreau and Filoni and all these people who've been involved in bringing superheroes to the silver screen the way they've done, this conversation has context. So when I look at Captain America was the first superhero who I started to sketch and draw and like get an understanding of, and that ability to care about integrity and doing the right thing was very impressionable to me. Then I think about, other superheroes. I think about, the Punisher. I think about Matt Murdock being Daredevil. I think about even Jessica Jones. I think about, Wade Wilson as Deadpool, and then Wolverine. Like these are the people that kind of like hit me in my head, and I'm like, there's a reluctancy in a lot of these superheroes that have these capabilities, and to me it falls down back to the Declaration of Independence, which is got this, I'm going to butcher it, but it basically says that those who have the ability have the responsibility to act against tyranny. And I feel that what New York really needs, in my absolute opinion, is it needs inspiration. It needs reinvigoration. It needs the reenchantment of we can do this together. And it's going to take a team up and a mashup of all the different communities to come together. It's going to take all of our neighborhoods to come together and respect the different superheroes that different cultures are themselves, that have solved problems and come collaboratively to build the city that we know we should have deep down inside, which is the reason why 15% of the population shows up to vote on average in the mayoral election. We need to be inspired. We need to have some belief. And what is my superpower? My superpower is that no matter what grenade is thrown at me, I keep moving forward. Now, I put my hand in the hornet's nest. I just naturally, that's what I do. I have this weird compulsion to jump on a grenade or to keep moving forward. I right now, as we're talking, I'm in the middle of fighting with an insurance company through other people to get my treatments for an autoimmune disease that I have that's in the family of Parkinson's, ALS, and MS. It's called CIDP, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. I was a former professional bodybuilder. I herniated discs in my back in 2009, January, and I got nerve damage and atrophy of my right arm, and my body just wasn't working properly again, and my career ended. And it was devastating because I started my bodybuilding career and learning about calisthenics and nutrition when I was 10 years old. My first competition when I was 16. So I've been in the bodybuilding lifestyle for 30 plus years. And I lost a lot of capabilities. And then I developed a meal program business. And then I wound up working through things and tried alternative solutions and all that stuff. They wanted to fuse my back. And I said, no, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to keep pushing forward. And I wound up getting better, and I wound up working through it. Then I herniated a disc again in December of 17, and this time I hurt the left side of my body. And then I was like, all right, that's it. I'll take the surgery, fuse my back, went to go see neurosurgeons, and they said, yeah, that's not the problem. It's something else. We don't know what it is. Bye, see you later. And I was like, okay, like no one's going to help me. Then I found a neurologist who was capable to find out that I had this disease, and they put me on intravenous immunoglobulin 3 days a week, every other week, at a very high dosage. I take 360 grams per month. That's a very high dosage, and it's very expensive. But that's what insurance companies are here for. Now, right now, I am only supposed to be off 11 days and have 3 days on. Right now, I'm somewhere around 29 days off because the insurance company decided, no, you don't need that level of dosage, and we're not going to approve you. But at the same time, they're also not going to approve me for anything. So just this morning, I found out that they finally approved me at almost half the dosage, which is not what my body needs, which is not what my doctor diagnosed me and gave me a treatment plan for. The insurance company decided. And guess what? A lot of people would give up on their startup being in a live and events company and then turning it into a online apparel brand company that stands for social impact. And we're going to give our money to the right causes and the right communities, and just fold up and give up. Oh, well, you know, the mainstream media is not going to pay attention to me. And now this and now that. You give up. But guess what? Here I am, full of energy. And I understand that if I give up, how am I going to inspire other people to jump in that are better qualified than myself to do this in the future? I don't want to be the mayor because I want the power and I want the notoriety and I want to start a political career. I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a public servant. I want to be able to get this system working and bring in everybody who can help make this work. I don't think one person can solve New York City's problems. And it's delusional to think that just the mayor is going to change the system single-handedly.
No.
The New Yorkers can solve New Yorkers' problems. We just need a leadership that inspires us to work together. Can we improve the relationship between the NYPD and the communities of color? Yes, we can. The question is the willingness.
We got to hold them accountable.
Who's willing to do it?
Yeah.
A fantastic answer, Chris. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, that was huge. I don't know if your video froze up, but it froze up for me. I don't know if Chris, can you still hear us?
I can hear you fine. I don't know what happened.
No, your video went, but it's perfect timing. I mean, it's perfect timing as we are going to wind down. But really what you said is really what we want this show to be about, and what we want to bring is people like you who are inspiring, not only through your personal story, but through your desire to make an impact, through the fact that you don't have to do this and that you're choosing to do this. You're choosing to put yourself out there to try to make a difference in the lives of the communities that we serve. And that is just admirable, because we need more people to step up and say, I want to be a part of making things better. We've all seen it crumbling. We've all watched it go down. We're all watching every, institution that we have become what feels like a little bit worse. Our political system is not as good as we would like it to be. Our system of policing, not as good as we'd like it to be. Our systems of healthcare, not as good as we'd like it to be. Education, they're all kind of taking a hit simultaneously, and we're watching them crumble. And if we just sit and watch and wait for things to get better, it's not going to get better. And so I'm inspired by what Chris had to share with us, and why he's choosing to put himself out there when he could be sitting back and relaxing or taking a different approach. I don't know what you thought, Alex, but I got inspired. Hey, partner, by that.
Thank you. You did a great job by getting Chris on the show, and really highlighting what his vision is, and his principles, because it's something that our community needs so much to be able to find people out there that they can connect with and identify themselves with, because there's so many conversations, Dwayne, you and I have, of people that really just want to do good, people that want to see that change, people that don't understand the current status quo. And to hear Chris speak from a place of ethics and a place, literally, he's coming from the heart, but also with this understanding of how to get the job done, I think is extremely important, because, not passion gets us so far, right? But having also a strategy and a way to execute that strategy, I think it's something that is extremely powerful, in which Chris presented to us and shared with us. So, just like you, Dwayne, partner, I am extremely grateful and happy that we were able to have this conversation with him and share his message with our audience, and just really look forward to see what happens, and then hopefully at the very least, like he mentioned, if doesn't win or whatever the case may be, but at least inspire others that have that ability, that expertise, but also again driven by that ethics principle, which is so much needed in our political system right now and just society as a whole. So overall, I'm extremely happy and just really inspired, like you mentioned, partner, about the conversation just we had.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Likewise. I mean, we need we need ethical leaders. I mean, that's just the name of the game. We need people who are thinking about how do we do the right thing for the larger masses, for the group. And we haven't always had that. And I think that shift is just so necessary for us to really, get to a better place. And so thankful to Chris. Sorry that his video cut off on us, but really, really thank you for being a part of today's conversation. Looking to have many more conversations. If you guys don't know about Chris, hopefully you'll continue to learn about him. His website, CSK4, the number 4, mayor, .nyc, CSK for mayor.nyc. And he's put all of these platforms out there himself. These are not things that some, political think tank sat and wrote and typed up for him. So we're not sitting here doing an endorsement of Chris, but just to say that he's somebody who's giving thought to how he wants to see the city and how he wants to be engaged. And I think we should all be doing that. I think that is an honorable thing, but a valuable thing for us all to be thinking about. What type of city do we want to live in? And what effort are we willing to put forward to make it a better place? And he's putting his effort forward and creating plans and taking meetings and, running for mayor is no easy task, especially as a independent candidate. And we're just thankful that he was willing to share some time with us. This wraps up our episode for the day, but we will be back with more. And we want to continue to highlight people who are trying to do good work. And hopefully you guys value the conversations. If you're watching on Facebook, drop us a line, put a little something in the chat. Let us know what you think about the conversation. And if you're watching us on YouTube or any other platform, feel free to do the same or shoot us an email, info@soulfulsynergy.org. But we're excited about where this is going to take us and all the different conversations to come. Watch on demand on Roku TV, Amazon TV, Apple TV, all those good streaming platforms. And just one more time, shout out and thank you to our partners over at Soul City TV, Soul City TV Network. We appreciate you and are always grateful for being able to have this platform to share our thoughts with you all. So thank you guys.
For sure. Thank you. And in the spirit of Chris and his passion, again, don't forget your voice matters, your vote matters. And at the very least, just go out there and just support your city. And we're super grateful again to have your ears, your attention, and we look forward to continuing to have some great guests on our shows and just keep up highlighting those heroes out there in our community that are getting the job done. So thank you, partner. Like always, it's always an honor and a pleasure to be on the show with you. And like I said, man, you're my hero. And I continue to look forward to.
I hate when you say them. I appreciate it, but I hate when you say them. But can you do us a favor before we wrap up? Can you turn around and show people the back of your shirt? So you guys, we're all about that people life. When you. Well,
let's see if we can get this. You guys can see it.
Mi gente, we out here in the streets walking that walk, mi gente. So
that's what we do.
All power to the people, and we really can't get anywhere without people. We gotta get the people engaged. Our man Chris says, make sure that you guys know that your voices matter and that you can use them to vote. Right, that's one of the ways you show that your voice matters. But there's so many ways that you can make sure that you use that people power. So thank you guys. Hope you guys have a blessed day. We'll catch you on the next time.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.